You know that moment when someone close to you says something so unexpected that you just stare at them, waiting for the punchline? Well, that was me last Friday night. I was lounging on our couch, snug in my oversized hoodie, sipping tea, when my husband Daniel turned to me with that look, the kind that says, I'm about to say something wild, but just hear me out. Lena, he said, his voice far too serious for someone holding a slice of pizza. I have an idea. Over our 10 years together, I've heard my fair share of Daniel's wild ideas. Some were harmless, like the time he thought he could build a backyard sauna with leftover wood. Spoiler, he couldn't. Others were, well, less practical, like when he suggested we sell everything and live in a van, despite the fact that road trips longer than 3 hours make him cranky. So I braced myself. Okay, I said, drawing the word out. Should I be worried? He grinned. No, this one's actually great. Life changing, even. That's when my stomach did a flip. The kind you get when you sense that the next words someone speaks are going to change everything. Daniel leaned in, his eyes practically sparkling. We should. Hold on, let me back up, he said. To understand why this is such a big deal, you need to know something about us. Daniel is the dreamer. He dives headfirst into an idea without thinking about minor details like logic, budgeting, or survival skills. I, on the other hand, am the planner. I make lists, do research, and think ahead. We balance each other out, his wild spontaneity and my healthy skepticism. So, when he finally said it, when those 6 words left his mouth, my first instinct was to laugh. And then, well, something surprising happened. I actually considered it. And that's where the real story begins. Because somehow, despite all logic, reason, and probably my own better judgment, I agreed. Now, before you start imagining crazy scenarios like moving to a deserted island, quitting our jobs to raise llamas, or training for a space mission, let me just say, it's wilder than you think. And I promise by the end of this, you'll either think we've completely lost it, or maybe, just maybe, you'll wonder if you should give it a try too. So hold on tight, because what happened next changed everything. I stared at Daniel, waiting for him to crack a smile and admit it was all a joke. But he didn't. If anything, his grin widened and his eyes gleamed with excitement, like a kid about to share a juicy secret. Okay, I said, setting my tea down. What exactly are you proposing? He took a deep breath, as if gearing up to deliver the pitch of a lifetime. We should switch lives for a month. I blinked. Come again? You and me. We swap roles. You take over my world, and I take over yours. Now, let me explain something quickly. Daniel and I might be married, but we live in totally different worlds. During the day, he runs his own small but successful carpentry business, designing and building custom furniture, working with tools, lifting heavy wood planks like it's no big deal. Me? I'm a freelance writer. My days are spent in front of a laptop, writing articles, editing projects, and sometimes battling imposter syndrome, all while wearing pajama pants. So, when Daniel suggested we swap lives for a month, my brain short-circuited. You want me to build furniture? I asked, half laughing, half terrified. And I'll take over your deadlines, emails, and writing assignments, he said proudly, as if this was the most logical trade ever. I stared at him. Daniel, you haven't written anything longer than a grocery list since college. He waved me off. How hard can it be? You sit, you type, you drink coffee. I scoffed. And you think I can just build things? You're always saying you wish you knew how to use power tools. Yes, but I meant, like, in theory. Exactly. And now you'll get real experience. I stared at him, hoping the absurdity of the situation would finally hit him. But no, he just kept looking at me like this was the most brilliant idea ever. You're serious? I said, my voice barely a whisper. And that's when something strange happened. Instead of shutting him down immediately, which, let's be honest, would have been the rational thing to do, I actually started thinking about it. Maybe it was the monotony of my routine, the predictability of my to-do lists, or the challenge and absurdity of it all. For the first time in a long while, Daniel and I were looking at an adventure together instead of just watching them unfold on a screen. So, let me get this straight, I said slowly. I spend a month in your workshop learning to build furniture while you take over my writing gigs and deal with my clients? Daniel nodded. Exactly, and we don't help each other. Nope, full immersion. I inhaled deeply, knowing full well that this was way out of my comfort zone. But maybe that was exactly why I had to do it. Fine, I said, crossing my arms. I'll do it. That's when Daniel's grin turned mischievous as he was already one step ahead of me. The next morning, I woke up to the smell of fresh coffee and the soft hum of Daniel rummaging through my office. That was my first clue I might have made a big mistake. I walked in to find him sitting at my desk, looking determined, squinting at my laptop screen. So, do you just stare at this thing all day? Or is there some kind of magic spell to make words appear? I crossed my arms. You open a blank document and write. He turned to me with a pained expression. Just like that? No warm-up drills, no stretches? I sighed. You do realize I have actual deadlines, right? Clients who expect decent work? Daniel grinned, cracking his knuckles like a man preparing for battle. Don't worry, babe. I got this. I had zero faith in that statement, but before I could argue, he gestured toward the kitchen. Your turn. Workshop opens at 9. I glanced at the clock. It was 8:42 a.m. He'd given me 18 minutes to mentally prepare for entering his world. A world full of heavy machinery, sawdust, and a lack of safety measures. Fabulous. By the time I arrived at the workshop, I already regretted everything. The air smelled like freshly cut wood, and Daniel's longtime apprentice, Kevin, was watching me with barely concealed amusement. So, he says, Kevin leaned against a workbench, you're running the show today. I exhaled sharply. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. I'm just trying to survive. Kevin chuckled. Fair enough. First lesson, meet your new best friend. He handed me a power drill. I took it cautiously, holding it like it might explode. Relax, Kevin said. It's not a grenade. Easy for you to say, I muttered. Meanwhile, across town, Daniel was in my world. And from the barrage of texts I received throughout the morning, things weren't going well. Daniel, what's passive voice? And why do 3 different people hate me for using it? Daniel, your email inbox is a crime scene. How do you live like this? Daniel, you wrote 2,000 words on the psychology of home decor. How did you not lose your mind? I smirked at my phone, but before I could respond, Kevin clapped his hands. All right, let's get started. First project, building a chair. I nearly dropped the drill. A chair? Like an actual functional chair? That's generally how chairs work, Kevin said. I closed my eyes and inhaled deeply. I had spent years perfecting the art of writing descriptions, but now I had to build something real. And if that wasn't terrifying enough, Daniel's next text almost made me drop my phone. Daniel, hey, so I may have just agreed to a huge project with one of your clients. No big deal. We'll talk later. I stared at the screen, panic rising. Was he serious? I tried calling him, but it went straight to voicemail. Panic clawed at my throat, but before I could spiral, Kevin clapped a hand on my shoulder. You good? Number. I was not good, I thought. Daniel had apparently made a business decision on my behalf, while I was still trying to figure out how to hold a drill without looking like a fraud. But Kevin was waiting, so I forced a tight smile. Yeah, let's make this chair. Meanwhile, Daniel had wildly underestimated how hard my job was. He had spent the morning drowning in emails, fighting with a blinking cursor, and Googling things like, what does tighten up the pros mean? But when a client named Rachel Porter called, things got much worse. Rachel was one of my longest-running clients. Huge deal. A lifestyle guru with a massive following. Somehow, in a haze of misplaced confidence, Daniel had not only spoken with her, but he had convinced her he could take on a 10,000-word feature due in a week. As he stared at the email confirmation, reality hit him like a freight train. He was doomed. Back in the workshop, I learned an important lesson. I was terrible at this. Kevin had patiently walked me through the steps, but after an hour, all I had was a very wobbly wooden frame. Okay, Kevin said, rubbing his chin. Structurally, this is questionable. I groaned. I'm an embarrassment. Hey, everyone starts somewhere. You think Daniel was a master carpenter on day 1? I chuckled bitterly. No, but at least he knew what he was doing. Kevin gave me a knowing look. Do you think he knows what he's doing right now? That shut me up. Daniel was definitely drowning. Then, the breaking point, just as I was regaining some confidence, accepting that I might one day build something that wouldn't collapse, my phone vibrated again. Daniel, we have a problem. I typed back quickly. What did you do? 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then reappeared. I think I just lost Rachel's contract. My breath caught. What? No. Rachel was a dream client. Losing her would be disastrous. I gripped my phone so tight my knuckles went white. For the first time since this challenge began, I realized this wasn't just fun. It was real, and we had just messed up. What do you mean you lost Rachel's contract? I typed furiously. This time, Daniel called. I answered before the first ring finished. Okay, before you freak out, he started. Oh, Daniel, I am freaking out. In fact, I might spontaneously combust. Explain. He sighed. I was trying to sound professional, confident. I figured if I acted like I knew what I was doing, she wouldn't question it. But then she started asking about strategy, SEO placement, keyword integration, content structuring. I groaned. You pitched to Rachel without knowing how to back it up? I thought I could handle it, he defended. But then she caught on. She asked if I even had experience writing long-form lifestyle pieces. And when I hesitated for half a second, she said she'd reconsider and hung up. My stomach sank. Losing Rachel wasn't just one paycheck, it was a massive deal. If she told people I wasn't reliable, my business would take a hit. Daniel groaned. I screwed up. I pinched the bridge of my nose. Okay, maybe I can fix this. I'll call her, explain that you were. But before I could finish, Kevin walked up, holding something in his hands. Lena, he looked concerned. We have a problem. I looked at him and then at the broken piece of wood in his hands. What's that? Kevin shifted awkwardly. The leg of your chair. I stepped forward to look at the workbench where my half-built chair had been, but it was gone. Instead, it was in pieces on the floor. I gasped. It collapsed. Kevin scratched his neck. More like exploded. Daniel's voice crackled through the phone. I ignored Daniel's voice crackling through the phone. Wait, what? It exploded? I had spent all day working on that chair. Kevin gave me an apologetic shrug. Technically, it was standing for a bit, he said. I clenched my jaw. First, my business was crumbling. Now, my actual work had fallen apart. Then it hit me. Daniel and I weren't just struggling, we were failing. I had thought I could step into his world and build things easily, and he had thought writing was just typing on a screen. But here we were, me standing in the wreckage of my chair disaster and him on the other end of the phone, having ruined a crucial contract. We weren't simply out of our element. We were falling apart. If we didn't figure this out quickly, this wasn't going to just be a funny story. It was going to be a full-blown disaster. I stood there, staring at the broken remains of my chair, my heart racing in my chest. On the other end of the phone, Daniel was silent for the first time since this wild challenge had started. Neither of us had anything sarcastic to say or confident words to offer because we had both completely failed. I exhaled sharply, running my hand through my hair. Okay, I said, trying to sound more confident than I felt. We need to fix this, Daniel sighed. Yeah, but how? Rachel already thinks I'm a fraud, and you just exploded a chair. Kevin snorted. It was more of a dramatic collapse, really. I shot him a look before focusing on the problem at hand. I'll call Rachel, I said. If I explain everything, the real situation, maybe I can salvage this. And I'll help you rebuild the chair, Kevin added. The right way this time. I nodded. Right, and Daniel? He hesitated before answering. Yeah, you need to write something. Anything. Show Rachel you're serious. Prove you're capable, even if you have to rewrite it 100 times. Daniel groaned. But I suck at this. I clenched my jaw. And you think I'm just naturally gifted at woodworking? Silence. Then Daniel sighed. Point taken. I hung up, took a deep breath, and dialed Rachel's number. To my surprise, she answered on the second ring. Lena, she said, sounding clipped and professional. I assume you're calling about our conversation earlier? Yes, I said, my voice firm but respectful. And I want to be honest with you about what's been going on. I explained everything, how Daniel and I had switched lives for a month, how we both had underestimated each other's work, and how he had definitely oversold himself. I won't lie to you, Rachel, I said. He panicked, but he's willing to put in the work. If you give him one more chance, I promise he'll deliver something worth your time. She was silent for a long moment before finally letting out a small laugh. That is one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard, she said. But before I could respond, she added, I'll give him another chance. I nearly collapsed in relief. Tell him he has 3 days, she continued. If he impresses me, I'll keep the contract. 3 days? I repeated, still in disbelief. He won't let you down. Rachel chuckled. Oh, I fully expect him to struggle, but I'm curious to see if he can surprise me. Plot twist number one, Rachel hadn't completely written Daniel off. I hung up and turned to Kevin. All right, I said, let's build a chair. Plot twist number two. By the end of that day, I had actually managed to build something that didn't collapse. With Kevin's help, and maybe a lot of his assistance, I built a chair that stood strong. Meanwhile, back at home, Daniel was actually writing. Neither of us had expected this, but maybe, just maybe, we were going to pull this off. 3 days. That was the deadline Rachel had given Daniel to prove himself. And let me tell you, I had never seen my husband take something so seriously. For 72 hours, our house transformed into his personal writer's boot camp. He barely left my office, chugging coffee like a college student during finals week, muttering things like, "Why do words hate me?" And, "How does Lena make this look so easy?" Meanwhile, I was in the workshop every day, determined to prove to myself that my one successful chair wasn't a fluke. With Kevin's help and a much-needed set of blueprints, I built another chair and then another. By the time Daniel submitted his draft to Rachel, I had 3 fully functional chairs sitting in the workshop, none of them collapsing under pressure. A personal victory. But the real question was, had Daniel managed to pull off a miracle? The day Rachel emailed back, I swear Daniel stopped breathing. I watched him click on her message, his fingers hovering over the mouse. "If this is bad," he muttered, "just remember I love you." I rolled my eyes. "Open it." He did. Then silence. I couldn't take it anymore. "Daniel?" His lips parted in shock, and slowly a grin spread across his face. "She liked it." I blinked. "Wait, what?" He turned the laptop toward me. Rachel's reply was short, but exactly what we needed. "Impressive." Not perfect, but impressive. "Let's move forward." I let out a breath I didn't realize I had been holding. "You did it." Daniel shook his head, still stunned. I actually did it. The challenge was over. Our lives were about to return to normal. But had we changed? For years, I had viewed Daniel's work as physical labor. Hard, sure, but straightforward. After struggling through it for weeks, I gained a newfound respect for his craft. It wasn't just about cutting wood and hammering nails. It required patience, precision, and problem solving. And Daniel? He finally understood that writing wasn't just about sitting and typing. He had faced deadlines, revisions, self-doubt, the entire creative struggle. Now he respected it in a way he never had before. On our last night of the challenge, we sat outside, staring at the 3 chairs I had built. Daniel laughed. "I still don't know how you managed that." I smirked. "And I still don't know how you survived Rachel Porter." We clinked glasses together. "To never underestimating each other again," I said. "To never switching jobs again," he corrected. I grinned. Agreed. So, what do you think? Would you ever swap jobs with your partner for a month? Let me know in the comments. And if you like this story, tell me what kind of wild stories you want to hear next. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more crazy real-life stories. See you in the next one.